Am I the bad guy for telling my 19M parents that I feel nothing for my brother, 25M? I want to share my story, and I hope it resonates with some of you. I'm the younger sibling in my family, and my older brother has a condition called DYRK1A syndrome, along with autism spectrum disorder. This means he is nonverbal and prone to physical outbursts. Growing up, it was clear that he needed a lot of support, which I completely understood. However, this focus on him often overshadowed my own needs and experiences. One of my earliest memories is from my 5th birthday party when my brother had a severe outburst. He knocked over my cake and presents and even punched me in the chest. At that age, it was terrifying, and what hurt even more was how my parents reacted. They rushed to comfort him, telling him he hadn't done anything wrong, while my grandfather was the only one who checked on me. From that day on, my brother would also receive gifts on my birthday to prevent any further incidents. As I grew older, the situation didn't improve. I was often tasked with babysitting him when I was just 10 years old, while he was 16. My parents missed my graduation because they were worried he might cause a scene, and I was even forbidden from getting a job or joining clubs because it would take time away from him. Dating was also off limits, though I did sneak around to see someone. The only person I felt truly connected to was my grandfather. He taught me so much about cars, fishing, and even the guitar. He was my rock, and when he passed away unexpectedly when I was 17, it shattered me. He left me his car and house, which sold for a significant amount. My parents assumed I would use this money to support my brother, but I had different plans. I wanted to leave the state, cut contact, and attend a university that they had discouraged me from considering. Recently, I overheard my mother discussing plans to use my inheritance to build out my brother's room. This triggered something in me, and I bluntly told her that it wasn't happening. The conversation escalated quickly, with her calling me selfish and ungrateful. When she asked if I even cared about my brother, I responded honestly, I feel nothing for him. I don't hate him, but I don't feel any bond or obligation towards him either. This honesty seemed to shock my mother, who called me heartless, while my father just looked exhausted. When I shared this with my friends, they acknowledged that they couldn't fully relate to my experiences, but felt I might have been too blunt in that moment. Some even suggested that I reconsider my plans to leave without giving notice first, which has left me second-guessing myself. So I'm left wondering, am I in the wrong for expressing how I truly feel about my brother and for planning to leave as soon as I turn 20?
I spent time together my ex-husband last night. It's been 3 years since my ex-husband and I parted ways. A decision that was rooted in a fundamental difference. I didn't want children, and he did. We loved each other deeply, but that one issue loomed large over our relationship. The last night we spent together in our home, just after the divorce was finalized, was bittersweet. We shared a moment of intimacy, promising to love each other forever. But then he moved away, and silence fell between us. Fast forward to last week, when fate intervened. I ran into him at the local shopping mall. He was there buying gifts for his nephews, and I was taken aback by how handsome he still looked. It felt surreal, almost like no time had passed at all. We caught up, and he shared that he had moved out of state for a job, but had recently returned. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, and before I knew it, we were having dinner together. As we sat across from each other, I felt a familiar spark. Halfway through our meal, I found myself holding his hand, and he gently stroked my palm with his thumb. It was a simple gesture, yet it felt incredibly intimate. When the check arrived, I noticed tears welling in his eyes. Concerned, I asked if he was all right, and he confessed that he still loved me. I didn't respond immediately, but later that night, we ended up at his apartment, where we rekindled our physical connection, spending the night together. The next day, I was left with a whirlwind of emotions. I still loved him, but I was acutely aware that I couldn't give him what he truly wanted. We agreed to meet again for dinner, and I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety about what our future might hold. During our next dinner, I decided it was time to be honest. I told him that despite my feelings, my stance on having children hadn't changed. I was firm in my decision. I didn't want kids, and I didn't want to lead him on. To my surprise, he stopped me mid-sentence and revealed something profound. He had spent time living with his brother and sister-in-law, caring for their children while they were away. This experience opened his eyes to the realities of parenthood. He realized that while he liked the idea of having children, he didn't see himself as a father. He understood the sacrifices involved and admitted he didn't want to devote his life to raising a child. Hearing him say this was a revelation. I had always felt like the odd one out in our relationship for not wanting children, but now he was expressing that he understood my perspective. He even apologized for how he had approached the topic before our divorce, admitting that he had made me feel wrong for my feelings. We talked for hours, and as the night wore on, I felt a deep connection rekindling between us. As he drifted off to sleep, I sat in his living room, overwhelmed with love for him. I told him I loved him, and he kissed me in return. In a moment of lightheartedness, I joked about running to the chapel to get married, and he responded that he was free this weekend. I wasn't sure if he was serious, but the thought filled me with hope. I was a little tipsy from the wine we shared, but my heart was full. I was so happy, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. The future was uncertain, but for now, I was content to embrace the moment and see where this journey with my ex-husband would lead us next. I recently found myself in a situation that felt like it was pulled straight from a romantic comedy. After 3 years apart, I ended up spending the night with my ex-husband. Yes, you heard that right. It was unexpected to say the least, but it got me thinking about what this could mean for us. You see, after our separation, we both took the time to grow as individuals. It wasn't easy, and there were definitely moments of doubt and reflection along the way. But as fate would have it, we crossed paths again, and sparks flew. It felt like we were teenagers again, filled with that giddy excitement of first love. As I sat there processing everything, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Was this a sign that we were meant to be together again, or was it just a moment of nostalgia? I decided to take a step back and really think about what I wanted. After all, we had spent years apart, and it was important to reconnect on a deeper level. I reached out to some friends for advice, and the responses were overwhelmingly positive. One friend even said, "Congratulations, just remember to take things slowly. You've both changed a lot over the years." This advice resonated with me. It was crucial to take the time to learn who we had become as individuals and as a couple. Another friend chimed in, "This is a fantastic opportunity. You can rekindle not just the relationship, but the romance too. Embrace it like you're dating for the first time." I loved that idea. It felt refreshing to think about starting anew, like we were school kids sneaking glances at each other in the hallways. As I reflected on this, I realized that this could be a beautiful chapter in our story. I imagined us laughing, talking, and rediscovering each other. It was like a scene from a movie, and I couldn't help but smile at the thought. Of course, there were moments of vulnerability. I remember one friend jokingly sharing, "I hate crying. I'm a 40-year-old man with an ugly cry, and I'm trying to hide it in my cubicle." It was a lighthearted reminder that love can bring out the most unexpected emotions in all of us. While I haven't posted any updates since that night, I feel hopeful about what lies ahead. Whether this leads to a renewed relationship or simply a beautiful memory, I'm embracing the journey. After all, life is full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises can lead us right back to where we belong. Am I the bad guy for changing the name on a Netflix profile to my name from someone who passed? I found myself in a bit of a pickle recently, and it all started with a Netflix profile. My fiancé and I were using his sister's account, which had multiple profiles for different family members. One of those profiles belonged to her young son, who had tragically passed away the previous year due to the pandemic. One day, my fiancé's sister sent out a message asking everyone to stop using her profile and to stick to their designated ones. I completely understood her request, but I made a decision that I now realize was incredibly insensitive. Without asking her permission, I changed the profile name from her son's to my own. At the time, I thought it wouldn't matter, since the profile wasn't used much anymore, and I didn't see any harm in it. A week later, she noticed the change and reached out to me, clearly upset. She asked me how I thought it was okay to alter the profile in such a way. I apologized, but I defended my actions by saying that since her son was gone, it didn't seem like a big deal. That was a huge mistake. She lost her temper and started yelling at me, calling me names I never expected to hear from her. In the heat of the moment, I tried to defend myself and suggested that maybe she needed some anger management instead of grief counseling. I know, not my finest hour. She ended up telling her father, who then sent me a message filled with harsh words, claiming that his son would never marry me after this incident. When I finally reached out to my fiancé, he was already aware of the situation and sent me a message saying we needed to talk when I got home. I could feel the tension through the screen. When I called him back, I admitted that I was wrong for changing the profile name, but I also expressed that his sister and father were overreacting. I even questioned whether I wanted them at our wedding, which only made things worse. He told me that I had gone too far and hung up on me, leaving me feeling completely lost. As I sat there reflecting on everything, I couldn't help but wonder if changing a Netflix profile name was really worth all this anger. I knew I had been insensitive, but I never expected it to escalate to this level. I was worried that my fiancé might break up with me over this, and I felt like I had ruined everything. The next day, reality hit hard. I learned that my fiancé had started packing his things when I returned home. He told me that I had destroyed our relationship, and that his family didn't want anything to do with me anymore. He said I shouldn't even try to apologize to his sister. In that moment, I felt utterly devastated. I couldn't stop crying, realizing that my thoughtless action had led to this heartbreaking outcome. There was no chance to make things right, and I was left to grapple with the consequences of my mistake. It was a painful lesson in empathy and understanding, one that I won't forget anytime soon.